Hi everybody. Before this episode begins, I just want to give a quick shout out and recognize some of the people who are working so hard, as well as the companies and organizations to help get us through these challenging times. Obviously all the doctors, the nurses, the hospital support staff, the first responders, they're all working with those who are directly affected. We truly appreciate all your efforts and services. We've all seen the national stories and international stories of companies who are going above and beyond, shifting their focus, trying to redirect their operations. That is something that's truly commendable. Locally, here in Rhode Island and Southern New England, we have some incredible companies and organizations as well. Talking like Honeywell, CVS, and Ocean State Job Lot. They're all really working hard, putting in that extra time to really help us get back to our normal everyday lives. The sponsor of this program is Cardi's Furniture and Mattresses. They've changed over their billboards, changed their TV ads to help raise awareness for organizations like the Rhode Island Community Food Bank, United Way of Rhode Island, and the Rhode Island Blood Center. They also continue to work with organizations like McLaughlin and Moran, the Greater Providence YMCA, and Gem Plumbing and Heating to bring food donations directly to those who are in need. Cardi's continues to work with organizations that they work with year-round, like FEMA, Operation Stand Down Rhode Island, and Open Doors. Those organizations are already under a great demand, and Cardi's is working hard to support them through these times, everything in accordance with the CDC guidelines. When things get back to normal, and they will get back to normal, it's important to remember to support those who supported us and our neighbors during these challenging times. I appreciate you watching. Stay safe, and please, wash your hands.
Welcome into Carpooling with Ben, doing the virtual edition because, let's face it, everybody's on social distancing and quarantining, but a person who has been coming into the homes of Southern New England over a variety of years, and now down in Atlanta, Mr. Fred Campagna, a neighbor, a good guy. I think I've yelled at you a few times as you're running down the bike path, and I don't know if you got scared. I was just going to offer you a ride because, geez, he's running. He should be, you could right. Get places faster with a car, but True. No, you've been a meteorologist for a number of years. You went to Plymouth State for meteorology. You've got a degree in economics.
I do.
So you're like, you kind of see a lot of different points of what we're going through right now.
Indeed, yeah. Well, I guess I like things that are very hard to predict. The weather and the markets. Those are both pretty tricky. I got that economics degree first. I got that from the University of Colorado, which is where I met my wife. So I always say, I got an economics degree and my wife from the University of Colorado, and she's proven to be a lot more useful than that economics degree did, because I never really did anything with that. I just went back to school, got the meteorology degree shortly after getting the economics degree.
But economics and meteorology, there's some synergy there because it's a lot of numbers, it's a lot of math, there's a lot of forecasting, I'm sure. I'm just noticing that you have your lovely 3 children right behind you. And because we're recording this on Skype, I'm just off a little bit. So maybe I could be the 4th Campagna. For years, people thought I was the 4th Cardi. Right. But it's because of the situation, you're working here up in Rhode Island, but you have been down at this Atlanta station. Before that, you were at Boston 25, ABC 6. You were in Hartford, Connecticut before, or at some, like, there's just been it's a journey.
Yeah.
You're down at CBS46 in Atlanta. How's that going?
It's going great. I love Atlanta. So let me just give a quick little backstory. I took that job in October. Kind of came out of the blue. A lot of people in the TV business, what they'll do is they will start somewhere else and then find their way back home. I was lucky enough that they put me on TV right out of school at Channel 6, which in hindsight was like, wow, I can't believe they did that. I worked there for 14 years, and since then I have gone, as you mentioned, I've worked in Boston. I've also worked in the Hartford market. I worked at the station in New Haven, which was a WTNH. Same market, though. It's Hartford, New Haven, kind of like Providence, New Bedford, split market. Right. And then out of the blue, got a call from someone that I had worked with in Providence who was working down in Atlanta. And they said, hey, are you interested in coming down? And to be honest with you, I was like, really? Like, this is a friend of mine, so I kind of thought he might have been joking a little bit. But when I looked at the demographics of that station, they kind of had an opening for someone like me to come in, someone with experience, and it's worked out. So I've been there, but I also have kept my house here in Rhode Island because my wife and my daughter, see my daughter behind me there. Our sons are in college.
Okay.
They don't care as much
Yeah.
that I'm working in Atlanta. But we were already into the school year, Ben, so it was like, we're not going to up and move everybody down just real, because this happened very quickly.
Sure.
They offered me the job, and I was like, "Can you be here next week?" And I was like,
Wow.
"Whoa,
Wow.
okay."
So this is it. So this is real.
Yeah, exactly. And it was, and then it got more real by the end of the year. I signed a contract, so I'll be down there for a few years. And one of the reasons that I am back right now in my home studio, which some people may remember from, I did Right Weather after I left Channel 6. So
Right. I was going to talk to you about that too.
Yeah, we can.
But
Been broadcasting from here for a while, and when I left, I was just coming up for a few days. I was supposed to be from last Wednesday to Sunday and then head back. Well, things developed the way they did last week, and we had a couple of people at the station who were out sick, not necessarily with the virus, but they weren't there. So I told them, look, I have this studio. I can broadcast from here if you need me to. And that's exactly what I did late in the week last week. And they were like, wow, your home studio looks a lot better than a lot of people's.
Well, except for the scenes. I mean, you're talking about Atlanta weather, and I noticed you've got a picture from, I would imagine it's either 195 or 95. I think it's 195.
It is 195.
Because I see a Welcome to Rhode Island sign there. That's is that right, the East Providence line?
Yeah, so that's what that is there. That was during the blizzard of 2005
Okay.
in January. I took all 4 of these pictures, by the way.
Oh, wow.
So this one right here, the sunset, that is sitting on the dock of the bay on Bristol Harbor on the night before the 4th. So the evening before the 4th, when everybody's down there for the concert and the fireworks.
Surprised you got a photo without a ton of people in it. I mean, it's
so
like
if you
the
look close,
hotspot.
you can't see, but there's everyone is silhouetted who's sitting.
Oh, okay.
Who's sitting there? This probably doesn't do that photo justice.
Sure.
The one over my top right, that's the Blackstone River back in 2010 during the March floods.
Wow.
Which was absolutely crazy. It was really, really high in flooding. And then I also have there, that's just a Bristol picture of an Arctic cold front coming through. So some pretty cool clouds that are drifting through. So yeah, so it's not your typical Atlanta scenes. But I have to say this, even though we had a mild winter around here, I really enjoyed the weather down in Atlanta this winter. So I'm back in town now. I think I'm heading back to Atlanta actually relatively soon, and the reason that I'm back in town is to get this house ready to sell it so that the whole family can move down in the summer.
Well, you've been doing, and for your Atlanta fans that are watching, the millions, because I mean, let's face it, you do have millions of fans. That picture with the flooding, that was March 2010. Or at one point, one of the malls here in Rhode Island was literally underwater. The Patuxent River had swelled, so it was that was quite a time around here.
It was absolutely crazy. I mean, it was, and we've had in Atlanta an awful lot of rain so far this year. We really have. We've had to this date for the year, the 4th most on record and the most that we've seen since 1990 in Atlanta. So, but it still pales in comparison to what we had there. And I guess it pales in comparison to the impact that caused. The Patuxent was flooding for how long?
Well, they shut down 95 at one point. They had the water with plows. I remember that happening as well. That was crazy. What made you want to go into meteorology or weather? I'm always curious about that, because you started in economics, which makes me think that maybe you were thinking more business degree originally.
Well, I can tell you the truth now because it's 25 years later. But so the family business was pharmacy, and I'm sure some of the people who are local to the East Bay know that. My grandfather started the pharmacy. My father took it over. At one point, it was 3 pharmacies from Bristol to Barrington, and I started at the University of Colorado in pharmacy. Okay. Boulder, Colorado got the best of me, and an 8 o'clock in the morning organic chemistry class, I think my sophomore year, was also proving to be a little too much of a challenge at the time. And so I actually transferred out of pre-pharmacy, got this economics degree. Honestly, more or less is like, what degree can I get in 4.5 years? It actually took me 4.5. But I've always been interested in the weather. Going back to the blizzard of '78, one of my very first memories was I was 5 years old. My father waking me up in the middle of the night, showing me the plow was stuck on our street on Anthony Avenue in Bristol.
Wow.
And yeah, so that was, you know, one of my very first memories. I watched the Weather Channel way too much in high school in the late '80s, and I never thought I'd be that guy. I never thought I'd be the weather guy or the meteorologist on TV. It wasn't until I was a little bit older. And had that first degree, was married, and said, you know what, I got to find a career, something that I want to do. So I went back to school.
So another reason why I reached out to you, actually reached out to you a little over a month ago. I think it's been going on, maybe a little. I said, hey, who's this Rodney guy, and why are you cramping my style? Because you kind of created on a whim. I'll give you that. It was sure it wasn't watching all my episodes, although I know you're a P1 subscriber. You started doing your own carpooling version, albeit at like 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning when you have to go in for the early morning shift. But Rodney Harris, who is one of your colleagues down there at CBS46, shout out to Rodney, more than welcome to join us on the show anytime. Maybe he can flip-flop and he can come to your studio.
He's
and we
more
can
interesting than I am. Yeah, so Ben, so here's the story behind that. It's funny because I you know, you sent me a thing. You said, "Hey, that's my thing. I'm doing the carpool," and I was like, "All right." You know, I hadn't really thought about it, but it was very organic. So Rodney, my apartment that I have for the time being down in Atlanta is within 10 minutes of the studio. It's about a mile and a half away, but in Atlanta with the stoplights, that's 10 minutes, even at 3 in the morning. Rodney's even closer. He always walked to work. It was like almost a half-mile walk for him, not even. One day in the middle of January, he was like, "Oh, it was cold out there this morning." I said on the air, I said, "Well, Rodney, I'll pick you up tomorrow morning." And he's like, "That's what I've been hoping for months." So I did. And then we started riding in, and we had this. So we have like a 4-minute ride into work. And after a few times, you know, he'd get in the car and we just chat about whatever. And I said, you know what, we should probably just record this and throw it up. We always got to feed the beast, right? So we got to just create content as much as possible. And I'm like, this is some pretty easy content here. I don't know if anyone will actually care, but let me get a dash cam. And so I got something to mount my phone. He hops in the car. I hit record. And we never know what we're going to talk about. We just talk. Yeah. And there are a lot of days where we get out of the car and it's only 4.5 minutes long. And both of us are like, that was whatever. And then people love it, you know, and it's been everything. It has been everything. Sometimes we'll talk about, you know, television shows that we're watching. Sometimes we'll talk about sports. Sometimes it's about like how to make mashed potatoes, because Rodney apparently cannot make mashed potatoes, which is, you know, I think, I mean, that's what makes it good, is that, you know, he's a unique guy. So we came up with the name for it, and it's, we call it, it's not official, but we kind of call it the Odd Carpool, because Rodney and I could not be more different. He's single. He's in his 30s. He's from Waco, Texas. You know, I'm well married now, over 25 years, 3 kids, and in my upper 40s. And, you know, but there's a chemistry between us. We like each other's company. So I think that's what a lot of people enjoy about it.
He seems like a really great guy. The mashed potatoes things, I can totally like commiserate with him, because it's just my wife and I. And when I've bought a 5-pound bag of potatoes, I'm like, oh, I'm going to make mashed potatoes. I make the entire 5-pound bag. I'm an idiot. And I've like we have mashed potatoes for days. It's awesome. But I can see the other thing too is, you know, like I was yelling at you on the bike path, you're yelling out to him, hey, come on, get a ride. I like that. So that's the content is funny. It's great. You guys really do have great chemistry. I truly mean that genuinely. And he does meteorology and digital content for the station, if I read the description correctly.
Yeah, and he's also the traffic guy in the morning. So and he was hugely helpful. So he's been with the station for over 10 years.
Wow.
And he's a young guy. So he caught a break early. You know, they brought him in to do some digital stuff, and then he wasn't on the air originally. They put him on the air, and you know, he's just got a good personality. People tend to really like Rodney. He's a funny guy, and when I came in, I was taking the morning. I do the weekday morning weathercast there. He's the traffic reporter for that, which again, he's not, he's a meteorologist, but someone was like, hey, Rodney, you should do the traffic. And so he did. And so that's what he does every morning. But it's been helpful to me because a lot like New England, there are these little nuances to the weather in North Georgia, believe it or not.
Okay.
And he helped me out a lot with those early on in the game. Now I've kind of figured them all out, but that was a huge help for me. So yeah, we sit there every morning. I mean, it is kind of like The Odd Couple. I mean, we sort of fight a little bit like brothers. You know, he calls me old man. He won't call me old man on the air, but he'll just be like, "That's because you're old," you know, all the time, which gets under my skin actually after a little while.
You're as young as you feel.
Yeah, exactly. I feel that way. But listen, body age, I may be younger than Rodney, and it's all that running that you've seen.
Well, I'm sad to hear that I won't be able to yell at you as you run through Warren by the fire stations and whatnot. But I think it's a great opportunity for you. Right Weather, real quickly, you developed that and you do forecasting, forensic meteorology, and really that's a really cool service. What kind of pointed you in that direction?
So I was ready to get out of the TV biz or out of Channel 6 anyway in 2012, and I decided that I wanted to start my own private weather company. At the time, I was thinking, okay, I'm going to have an app. I'm going to have subscribers. This is how I'm going to do it. People aren't going to wait until the 11 o'clock news to get their weather forecast. I'm going to give it to them whatever they want. It was the right forecast, right when you need it. And so I tried that, but it was really hard to get to critical mass. You know, it's hard to get tens of thousands of subscribers in little roadie. So eventually, right? So eventually I started to go into consulting where I work for municipalities, I work for bigger businesses, I work for universities, and I provide private weather forecasting for them. And that's key to them because if you watch TV, it's hard to know exactly what it's going to do, particularly in the winter right in your area. If you look at an app, it can be hard to know exactly what's going to happen. So these places that are very focused on just a certain area, I can give them a very specific forecast. So I started with that, and then I got into this forensic thing, which is I provide expert witness testimony for a lot of times civil cases, a lot of slip and fall cases. And not always the plaintiff, not always the defendant. I mean, just a mix of both. Someone slips and falls on ice. We live in a very litigious society, and there's a lot of lawsuits out there, particularly here in the Northeast. Massachusetts has an awful lot of cases. And I look back at what the weather was at that time, and it's not up to me to find out who's liable for that.
You just provide the information.
I'm providing the information. Sometimes I'm testifying, and sometimes I work in criminal cases too. Which can be, they run the gamut.
So when you do that, do you sign off, like before you get down off the bench, do you say, with your judicial weather forecast, I'm Fred Campagna? Like, do you get to do that? Or
I don't have to do that, but I do have to give an oath every time before I go on television.
Oh, yeah. No, that's incredible. I mean, there's just a lot of different ways through it. Yeah, exactly. It's there's Grey's Anatomy for like the medical. Is there a specific book for the weather forecast? It's like the go-to is like instead of the Bible, do you place your hand on that weather or stack weather reports maybe it could be Salty Brian's old leg. I don't know.
It's like Severe Weather for Idiots or one of those books. You know what I'm saying?
Awesome.
But yeah, so that's it's really an interesting field. It's great. I always say it's great work if you can get it. There's just like not that much of it to be able to do that exclusively. So I love the consulting end of it. I love the TV end of it as well. So now it's good to be able to do both.
Well, you are a man of many different facets. I wish you all the best as you get ready to make your next big move. Good luck to your family. Your daughter is still in high school?
She's not even in high school yet.
Okay.
She is in seventh grade, and as it turns out, we weren't sure how long we were going to do this split thing because she's been at the Penfield school. All my kids have. That's down in Portsmouth for a while.
School.
Yeah, and that ends in 8th grade, and she's only in 7th. But as it turns out, there is a performing arts school, and she's very interested in theater and dance and all of that, and art, that she has been accepted into in Georgia that starts in the 8th grade. It goes 8th through 12th. So it's a perfect time for us to make that move.
Right there. That's awesome. Well, Fred, thank you so much for taking the time. I know you're in between forecasts and doing all this stuff. Folks, if you want to learn more about Fred, Right Weather, or even even the Honorable Rodney Harris, because he's a great guy as well. Go follow all those pages. We'll put the links in below. Sir, good to talk to you. Wish you all the best. And if it takes a little while, I'll still yell at you on the bike path there. Don't worry. I'll take care of that.
All right, Ben. I'm looking forward to that. Thanks a lot. Have a great day.